So, hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session on fostering research integrity through institutional structures and policies. So, it's a pleasure for me to chair this session. My name is Helene Ingerd. I'm the head of the National Research Ethics Committees in Norway. And we have 4 presentations here today. And I think they will provide and give us a great variety of ways to foster research integrity. So I'm looking very much forward to hear you all. And we will start with Dr. Urša Opara Krašovec. She is an associate professor and scientific counselor at the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. And since 2003, she acts as an evaluator for the European Commission. She was a member of the National Commission for Women in Science and was its representative in ENRIO. So please, Urša.
So thank you for the nice introduction. I would first like to thank also the organizing committee to giving me the opportunity to be here in front of you and present you the, let us say, what's going on in Slovenia. And yes, so good morning to everyone in the room. So I will try to discuss and talk today about how far we came on the national level in establishing the research integrity structure. And I would like to highlight the different roles that we had. How does it does not work? It works. It works. Yeah, sorry. Well, it's the wrong side. So I would like to talk a little bit about the path we walked, and the roles, as it was evident from my title, the role of the individuals and those in the power position that were responsible to make the actions that the things would happen. I intentionally put this photo from Humboldt Foundation because as it has been introduced, I was a member of the Committee for Women in Science, the national one, and we were the one, let us say, really advocating to foster, to make the change in Slovenia, as we did not have many things. And in a way, as you see from the slide, on one side, they are male, nicely walking up with a very not steep, nice way. And there is a climber on the other side, on the northern, very steep wall, which you could, that's like a female fighting to try her position or secure the equal rights. And in a way, it could be also a whistleblower, let us say, trying to make the change when stepping up and speaking up about the wrongdoings or the things that are happening in the society, academic society, that should not happen there. So as you could guess, we still do not have a structure at a research integrity structure or a committee at a national level. Although we have a legal foundation now already there. In the Act, as you will see later on, I could not say that there were no improvements in the last 10 years made. There were quite some on the institutional level. So we have the committees. We have in some of them the let us say PhD training. That's mainly the thing. But it's really everywhere, either on institutional and also on the national level, that the subject is not discussed as it should be, so it does not have the place. if we go forward, I would like to highlight that that's not the case that in Slovenia research integrity or the need for research integrity has not been identified. Also in the legal documents, like in a resolution on the National Research and Development Program 2011-2020, there were clear objectives set. So already accepted already in 2010 that we need here to do something to raise the ethical awareness of researchers of their work and outwards. So, and as you can see, you can read what's written here, the main three objectives, which I copied from the document. It was a clear need also to have a kind of a national research integrity, not an office, but it was at that time called like a court of honor for the scientific area needs to be established. The things, so nothing really happened, but as it's often the case, you might think that there were not clear measures, responsibility, deadlines, or indicators stated in the document, which happen sometimes. On the opposite, the roles were really clear. For example, regarding the establishment of Court of Honor for the scientific area, consisting of the topmost impartial and ethical, inapproachable members of the scientific community. So clearly measure, responsibility, government and the Academy of Science, deadline 2012, and indicator clearly set. So it was the same with the public debate, which should take place on 2014. And on the institutional level, the things should get sorted in 2012. Unfortunately, there were no action, let us say, in that way, and that's where the time back in 2014 is really the time when the Commission for Women in Science really actively engaged in, let us say, in promoting research ethics and responsibility in Slovenia. I should here really emphasize that there were the personal initiatives that were gathered between the Commission itself. They were the main driving force behind stimulating public debate on research integrity and implementing the objectives that were set in this document, a resolution that I showed you before. So we played a pivotal role in organizing many events and in putting let us say, to open the debate, to discuss it. I wrote here and really when stepping into this, beside being before for the committee strived for more than 20 years to make the change regarding the gender issues that we have and are still persisting in the scientific community. We really became, let us say, proactive, strong and loud, a kind of dangerous alliance for the one that tried to sweep everything under the carpet. So to go back to 2014 in March, this is it was on 6th of March, but that was meant for the Women's Day. That's the day when the Commission always organized an open event to discuss the topics. It was the time when we really publicly debated, let us say, and announced that we are lagging behind the codes, the system on institutional and national level. So by to implement the things that were in resolution, we opened the discussion on bad practices. So there were cases presented, and after it was really well perceived by the audience, I mean by the scientists, that somebody finally opened the debate and give them the place to bring the issues up. And we did, so there were many different cases reported to us. Of course, we did not have any, let us say, possibilities to look at the individual places, but we analyzed it, systematically presented them later on, because we decided to organize an event on September. This was an international symposium with actually two aims. There were like two sections. The first one was devoted to, the aim was to invite and bring the specialists, the ones that are well known and long time with a lot of experience on the field, how to move or make the change from Europe. And the other one was about analyzing the situation in Slovenia. So in the first one, we were glad that Krista Varantola joined us and presented to let us say, to public, to academia. Actually, we managed to engage Slovenian Academy of Science and Art to co-organize the event, and it took place at their place. And so, as I said, the aim was that the top scientist or the decision maker listen to the people, to the experts, really, that there is a need and that we need to do the change and how to do it. That was an advice later on also from Krista to join the ENRIO to get more in touch and to get all the information, what's going on the European level and what are the good practices, how to move the things, how to change. And that's the reason also why we have asked and applied for the membership in ENRIO, and the Commission for Women in Science joined the ENRIO back in 2014. We were at that time really quite, let us say, successful in a way to put the things on the podium, highly on the political agenda. And there was a press conference on the 10th of December given by our minister at that time. And at that time, the Singapore statement has been presented that the Commission translated to Slovene language. I should emphasize here that we did a kind of introduction to Singapore statement, as well as we criticized like that the responsibility in Singapore statement is given too much to the individuals and not to the institutions. And I'm glad to hear now that we have in the European Code also the change where it's clear that the responsibility is on the institutions and should be the strong responsibility there, not only on the individual researchers. And I forgot to mention before that that we always emphasize that the issue of gender in relation to power relations in research environment cannot be separated from reflection on research integrity guidelines and practices. That was also what we stated for. So to come back to this press conference, there was an important message sent to the Slovenian Academic Society that there will be an autonomous national committee constituted as soon as possible. So that was back December 2014. With a colleague, Renata Schreiber, we joined the World Conference in Rio. And we presented that there are the steps we made. Really, at that time, we were very enthusiastic that the things will finally get moved. But unfortunately, I forgot to say, there were many media scandals also appearing at that time of a different kind, like the scientists do not believe, but the rector does. This was one PhD thesis on memory of water. A lot of criticism on the research founding organization that really showed no interest to make a change or to implement a kind of research integrity in into their, let us say, daily work. It was about a typical one. Being a boss gives you a copyright to the work. That was about authorship. And there was an affair of extreme honorars when the Anti-Corruption Committee announced that a very long list of the highest earners, and among them there were many professors on the list, including our minister that had to step out shortly after this affair came out. Plagiarism, black markets with the seminars, diploma, master thesis, and doctorate. So there was let us say, really giving another push for change to stimulate proactive response. But however, there was an obstacle again. I just put here one article, but since Slovenia doesn't matter, I wanted to show that we really try to analyze the situation. We try to bring the thing to the public, and to step why we need a change, why we need to make a move. But of course, there were we call it in gender clubs like Old Boys Club. There was the one responsible who should do, or who are able actually have the power to make the change. There were no clear response from academic authorities. So it's behind always this brotherhood, gentleman agreements, and you should take into account that Slovenia is very small. So we are 2 million, and to prevent the conflict of interest, you can imagine that is quite strong. To continue with some facts here. So anyway, we did not give up. We continue with the effort. So nothing happened with this promise that something will be established very soon, as the minister promised. But anyway, on March 2015, the Ministry and Academy of Science, they nominated a board to prepare an open forum again to discuss the subject about research integrity, and to discuss how to build up the Slovenian Research Integrity Office. It took quite a while. I was a member of this committee as well, so it took quite a while that we organized it, half a year. So in November it took place. And after the event, there was we drafted the kind of the guidelines with the key elements on the establishment of Slovenian Research Integrity Office. But there was still clear that there is a need to push up again. So in here we used the alliance with ENRIO. So we hosted the meeting of ENRIO, and again there was a day before to again present to the key players, let us say, again how to build up the structure, the good practices that have been made up, that have been used in other countries, etc. And then shortly after, there was again from Ministry and SASA a positive response, and there was a formation of a council to prepare the starting points for the establishment of a National Research Integrity Office. And 1 year passed, and when the council presented a recommendation for a chapter for the new law on research and innovation, with a clear statement like the establishment of a National Research Integrity Office, how to be established, and that it will be in the office of the Academy of Science. It will be financed by the Slovenian government, but independent, authorized first to give a general advice and specific advices on local codes of conduct for research integrity, to promote research integrity through education and training, and to give opinions on research misconduct, stimulating international cooperation and acting transparent by publishing an annual report on its activities. But still, we waited. We were not completely signed at the Commission for Women in Science. We organized quite few seminars, webinars on the topic. One of them was also about the issue related to the silence. So the issue related to whistleblowers, in a way, whistleblowing, etc. So in November 2021, the act was finally accepted. I should emphasize that it was not this chapter that was holding the, let us say that the act has not been accepted, but it was really a great reorganization of the founding system in Slovenia. So it came into force 1st of January 2022. The article is clear, 39. There should be the National Council for Ethics and Integrity in Science. And there is another article we luckily were able to put in as well, that there was a clear deadline. And as it said, it shall be established no later than 6 months after the entry into force of this act. But we are still waiting. There are some issues, so it's not an optimal, let us say, chapter, and it changed at last minute. The main change was that the Academy of Science stepped out. I don't know the reason, and the responsibility is now given to the Rectors' Conference and the Association of Public Research Institutions to establish the council. And there is another quite a big, I would say, a challenge, or there are questions appearing too. Are the proposals of the council members aware of the challenges? Who are the members of this council as set by the law? So they are nominated by the institutions. So 2 are coming from the Academy of Science, 1 from the Academy of Engineering. There are 3 from Rectors' Conference. There are 3 from the Association of Public Research Institutions, 1 from independent higher education organization, and 1 from the founding agency. So the issue is, will the members nominated will they nominate competent persons? Will the academy trust the council? Because that's the first step. As my grandmother said, it's to establish a council is the easiest way to sweep the things under the carpet if there is no strong will to do the other things at the end. So I will conclude with a kind of promotion, with the call to those in power positions, with the promotion of the whistleblower protection handbook, ENRIO 1. And that is the call to them is like, please listen to the people who speak up about wrongdoings and protect and acknowledge the whistleblowers as they take really each frightening step. It's not easy to be one of them, I would say, but as a scientist, I would state that protecting, let us say, putting this mark silence, not giving the option to speak up is in a way a misconduct. Why I would say is you need to have a state of the art first. So you need to listen to what's going on to detect, and then you can work, it's manageable to identify the systematic barriers, the gatekeepers, to proceed and to make the change. So I will end my presentation here. Oh, I forgot, but you could read it from the last chapter in the book. That is the call to those in power position, and I would like to thank you very much.
So Thank you very much. I think that was a very impressive account and very interesting case on how personal initiatives may play such a crucial role in enhancing research integrity. So are there any questions from the audience? How about online audience? I think we need to check those. Nothing. So I just have one question. You talked about the importance of ensuring trust to this new council. I didn't recognize, was there something about the independence as in the new act? Yes, because of course that's a very crucial element. Yes, so that's in the act. Please.
Yes, of course, there is. So the ones that are nominated, it's clear they should be independent and they do not represent an institution. And there is also a conflict of interest that is defined. But still, we are small. We are 2 million people. And as I said, it's quite a challenge to deal with conflict of interest. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. No questions? Then I think we can proceed. So thank you again, Urša. And our next speaker is from Sweden, Karin Nylén. She is the office manager of the fairly new National Board for Assessment of Research Misconduct. And Sweden is among the Nordic countries that have legal regulation with regard to research misconduct. And I think it was in 2020 that research misconduct became this legal issue in Sweden. So I'm looking very much forward to hear about your experiences. So please, Karin.
So thank you. Can you hear me? Well, thanks. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me here today. And so my name is Karin Nylén and I'm representing the Swedish National Board for Assessment of Research Misconduct, where I'm the director of the office. And today, as mentioned, I will talk about the changes that were made in Sweden in 2020 when it comes to research integrity. I will specifically mention a few of these changes and in the end make some reflections on what we can learn from these first 3 years. So in January 2020, we made some changes in Sweden. A new law came into effect, the first one in the area of research misconduct in Sweden. And there was a new government agency that was established, the National Board for Assessment of Research Misconduct that I represent. And at the same time, the remit to investigate research misconduct was transferred to our agency from the research principles. And by research principles, I mean universities, etc. And why were these changes made? Well, there was an urge to preserve the reputation and trust in Swedish research. One wanted to clarify responsibility for researchers and research principles. And the legislator wanted to ensure a clear, legally secure, and uniform handling of research misconduct by centralizing these investigations within one single and independent agency. Let's look a bit more at this act. That regulates that all researchers are responsible for adhering to good research practice in their research. The law also regulates that the research principal has the overarching responsibility for ensuring that research is conducted in accordance with good research practice. And for the first time also, we have a legal definition of research misconduct. And what about these changes? Well, they're not actually new. They're all based on international codes and supposed to be already the norm within the society. But by putting it out in an act, it's supposed to be clearer for everyone what to expect from the research society. And I thought it worth mentioning how the definition looks. As mentioned, it's based on, for example, the ELIA Codex, but with a few changes, add-ons. The definition of research misconduct, according to the Act, is that it's a serious breach of good research practice in the form of fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism committed with intent or through gross negligence. And this is supposed to have happened in the planning, execution, or reporting of research. When it comes to the definitions of fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism, we look at the ELIA code and use the same meaning as there. Right, so let's move on to the next change in 2020, the establishment of the new government agency. The board is an independent agency under the Swedish Ministry of Education and Research. It's appointed by 10 members, all professors, and a chairman that is also a professor but a judge. The remit of the board is to examine research misconduct and decide if research misconduct has occurred or not. We do not investigate other deviations from good research practice, and we do not decide on sanctions when it comes to research misconduct. And what's new is also that these kinds of decisions can be appealed to the court, the administrative court in Sweden. So that was an important change. Researchers wanted to have the opportunity to appeal these cases. Investigations at the board can be initiated in 3 ways. First of all, research principals have an obligation to report cases to us if they can suspect that there has been a case of research misconduct. So they have an obligation to report that to us. Apart from that, any individual, researcher, or anyone can report cases to us. And finally, the board has an ability to open cases on its own if we find something suspicious going on somewhere. And now the final change that happened in 2020, the change of the remit of the research principles. From 2020, the research principles have the overreaching responsibility for ensuring that research is conducted in accordance with good research practice. It's specified in the law that this is an obligation. Obviously, it was the same thing as before the law, but now it's more clear. The research principles also have the obligation to investigate other deviations from good research practice, other deviations than research misconduct. And it's the research principles that decide on sanctions, also regarding research misconduct. And these sanctions, it's sanctions according to labor law, for example, but it could also be withdrawing funding, education, etc. So it's not a criminal sanction that you might think. Research principals also have the obligation to report which sanctions they've decided to us, and we summarize this in an annual report. And they also have an obligation to inform research funders, scientific journals, etc., about the board's decisions, and also if they find deviations from good research practice. Right, so let's reflect on what to learn from these first 3 years. First of all, we find that there's been a positive response, a good start. We get the appreciation from the society that there is a legal definition, a clear legal definition of research misconduct. We also get appreciation from research principles that these issues are now addressed on a national level. There's also appreciation when it comes to these investigations being done by an independent third party instead of the research principles themselves. And of course, still there are some boundary issues to address, but we're working on that. What's interesting to mention is that we've received many more cases than expected when we started. I don't know, but the legislator thought that we would handle like 10 cases a year, which I think was not the expectation by many others. But as you can see, we have had more than 40 cases a year, and probably will end up with the same numbers this year, a total of 159 cases. And as you can see, the amount of reported cases by research principals and individuals are fairly the same during the years. At the same time that we received many cases, it's interesting to know that the research principals have not had many cases of other deviations from good research practice. As you can see, in the whole of Sweden in 2020, they only had 6 cases and a total during these years of 14 cases. So that's quite interesting, and we don't really know how to explain this, but we will look into it in the following years. Perhaps it's that people turn to us instead of addressing the research principle. Mentioning that we've had a lot of cases, it's also important to say that most of the researchers are not found guilty of research misconduct. As you can see, we've only had 18 decisions where we found researchers guilty, and most of the cases, none is found guilty. So that's really important to say. Right, my final slide. We find that there's a lot that can be learned from our decisions, learned by the Swedish research principles and researchers when in future trying to prevent these situations. For example, we have many cases that we find could have been avoided and they didn't have to end up on the board's agenda. For example, we have several cases of plagiarism where researchers claim that they didn't know better, that they relied on plagiarism tools instead of independent writing, and or perhaps didn't use the tools in the right way. And we think that these cases ought to be able to prevent in a better way. We also have many cases due to carelessness with figures in publications. For example, duplicated pictures. And we find that this is a question many times of being organized, understanding that it's important to use the right pictures, even if they don't represent the main results. Taking the time to check the pictures, use tools to avoid duplication, etc. And we also see several cases when data hasn't been archived properly. We also hope this can be prevented better in the future. There's also several cases about uncertainty about requirements for authorship. For example, when several researchers and groups cooperate and some contribute in limited ways, and we see that researchers don't adhere to the requirements for authorships in ALIA, gift authorships, etc. And sad to say, but I know it's the same in many other countries, that many of the cases reported to us arise from conflicts, authorships, disputes, plagiarism, etc. And we wish that these conflicts would be sorted out at an early stage, not amounting to the research misconduct, and that the research principles would offer more support in these situations to avoid this. And finally, many accused mentioned bad working conditions and bad culture, bad working environment that is not helpful. Maybe they know what's the right thing to do, but stress and older researchers push them to do things that they know that they shouldn't. And we wish that Swedish research principles engage more in working with an open culture, good working conditions and working environment to foster good research practice. And as discussed in one of the workshops yesterday, this is easier said than done. It's a wicked problem and needs several approaches, but step by step, we hope that the most unfortunate, not intentional cases of research misconduct can be prevented. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Karin. That was really interesting to hear about your experiences so far. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, please. Please present yourself first.
First, thank you for your presentation, which was quite interesting. I have two short questions. First, do you have research integrity officers within the Swedish institutions? And what is their role? I understand that they don't investigate any cases of misconduct, which is quite different from the French situation, but what is exactly their role? And my second question is, what is the effect of the decision of the Commission? Is it possible for research principles, for instance, to disagree with what the decision what the Commission decided, or to have another appreciation on the misconduct, or even not to take any sanctions after the decision of the Commission?
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. First, the question about research principles. They choose on their own how to organize their dealing with other deviations and things before they deliver cases to us. Many universities have committees, but they look very different from each other. Some have researchers, some have legal staff that decide what to do with the cases, if they're to be handed over to us or not. So it looks a bit different, and it's up to the university to decide themselves how to organize it. And the other question was about what happens if the research principals disagree with us. Well, that's a good question. So far, so good. We've had a few disagreements, actually. No one has tried to appeal to the administrative court, but that would be interesting to see if the administrative court would see them as a party in the court of law. But most of the time we get a great response, and well, when it comes to sanctions and what they do with our decisions, we see that most actually decide on working with the issue on in a broader perspective, by educating the institution and addressing the issue that was being handled in the decision. So there's very few situations where labor law is used, etc. So it's more soft decisions, actually.
Okay, so we have a couple of more questions, please. And please present yourself before you ask the question. Thanks.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. My name is Göran Lövestam. I'm from the European Commission Joint Research Center. A short question: are your inquiries, your investigations, are they publicly available? And also the results of your inquiries?
Yeah, right. The decisions are public. and we present them on our website. Some of them are translated to English, so if you want to check out our English website, you can visit that. Apart from that, if anyone asks for the investigations, most of it is not confidential, so you can read it. But we don't put the investigations out on the internet or something like that. But very little is confidential.
Hi, I'm Gillian Rendell from the UK Committee on Research Integrity. And I was just interested in, you talked about the number of cases being much greater than some people expected. Was that based on the number of cases you knew research principals were dealing with before? And did people feel more comfortable coming to you because you were an independent board, or was there something else behind the increase? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, we're trying to figure this out. Why is this? And well, some think that it might be that people are more comfortable to come to us, which was sort of one of the points by establishing us. But we also think that there was, well, if you looked at the statistics of how many cases the research principals handled before, you would expect these amounts. So perhaps the legislator thought that, you know, by sort of trying to point out that these were the really serious deviations from research practice, there wouldn't be so many cases, but so far that hasn't happened. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have to move on and we can talk more in the lunch. So thank you again, Karin. I would like to thank all of you, the audience and all of the presenters. I think this has been a really good session. Thank you. Lovely. I mean, often when you have these scandals, the gut thing to do is to establish some kind of committee, but here you really work in the long term.